Hi, I'm Reggie Turner. I'm here with Jim Miller and Terrence Moore. The FlipSide starts right now. Welcome to the show. It is nice to be back with you again, gentlemen, after a long respite, so good to see you both. Well, tonight we're joined by David Blenckstone, the general manager of the new Hagerstown Flying Boxcars. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Well, David, let's start a little bit about telling us your background. I know there was a profile on you in the Herald Mail once it was named that you were general manager. You have a lot of experience with this, but tell us a little bit about your story.
So yeah, I really, for all intents and purposes, grew up in the minor league baseball business. My father, when I was a senior in high school, to go way back, sold a family business and wanted to do three things. He wanted to buy a winery, a bed and breakfast, or a minor league baseball team. So he found an ad in the Wall Street Journal for a minor league baseball team that was for sale in Florence, South Carolina. Purchased that team, moved it to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And in college, that was my summer job. So I was the groundskeeper and concession worker and really learned the business from the ground up and fell in love with it. And kind of worked my way up and eventually the team moved to Hagerstown. And in 92, started here in the 93 season. And I worked as general manager for about 5 or 6 years and the last season being 01. And just, like I said, learned the business from the ground up, but also was really fortunate to learn the business kind of from the top down too, because it was a family business, and I was lucky to have access to things and to have interest in things in the business that most 22, 23, 24-year-olds didn't have and probably didn't care about. So I really felt like I kind of had the best of both worlds.
Awesome. Jim.
So let's talk about the team. First of all, Flying Boxcars. Tell us the significance, the history of that, how it was chosen.
Well, it was chosen through a name the team contest that we had back in, I guess June is when we started. So we had a number of submissions for suggestions to name the team. I think over 1,600 names were submitted in the name the team contest. And so we got it down to a final 5. Obviously Flying Boxcars was one of those 5 nicknames. And from that point, we had over 2,500 votes, and Flying Boxcars was the most popular name. And the significance of the name itself is that it was a military aircraft that was built by Fairchild here in Hagerstown in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. So it was really a cargo plane. Ergo, the nickname Flying Boxcar is where that comes from. But so there's a long history of that aircraft in Hagerstown, and we reveal our logo next week, and we think people are going to love it. We love it. It's awesome. It's fun. It's unique. It's minor league, but it also really reflects the history of Hagerstown and the importance of aviation in our community as well.
Excellent.
And it sounds like a lot of activity. It has been outreach to include the community in the development of this team, and want to attract fans as well as to understand that they're part of the master plan as well. Anything different seeing you growing up in baseball and the direction baseball is taking, both minor and major league, that you think about doing different?
I think the one thing people are going to notice, and people are already excited about, is the facility. This is a modern facility with all the amenities and all of the technology that new ballparks have these days. But for me, what it gets down to is really the organization starts at the top, and we have just an amazing local ownership group. So great facility, not great facility, that to me, that's where any great organization starts. That's where any great team starts. And we just have a wonderful local ownership group of Blackie Bowen and Don Bowman and Jim Holtzapple and Frank Bolton, who's actually from New York. But this is just a wonderful ownership group, and so I'm excited to be a part of this project.
Well, and let the truth be told, those names, at least the several that are truly local,
Yeah.
They have a history of success.
they have a history of success, and they have a real passion for not only making this franchise successful, but having it dovetail into a revitalization, for lack of a better term, of downtown Hagerstown as well. So I think there are a lot of things that play into this, and when you start with leaders like that, it's a really good place to start.
If you were to define the mission of how you would see the baseball team integrating with the community, what would that look like? What does success look like for you?
Success for us looks like 75 degrees on a Friday night in a full ballpark. I think minor league baseball, at its heart, is about entertainment, and especially for families. I mean, that's really our bread and butter, and so that's no different in our franchise. That's what we're going to focus on. We just have the facility that's really going to be an attraction as well, and it's not necessarily, I don't want to say this because I love the game and I love baseball, it's not necessarily about the game that's happening on the field. It's about the entertainment experience and having something that the community can rally around and claim as its own, and with this new ballpark to be really proud of too.
Yeah, and I think you hit on that with the facilities, because it's not just about the game, but there's activities that's happening in parallel around the game, inside the facilities, and also that bleeds out into the community as a whole. Can you give us a little, what's your role? What's the definition of your role, and what does that look like?
So I really am overseeing, along with two consultants. We have Mary Nixon and Chuck Domino, who have just been amazing consultants and have experience opening new ballparks, which I don't. So my role is to really oversee the business operations. The Atlantic League is an independent league, so there is a certain element that I am going to have a learning curve with, as far as hiring a manager and coaches, and having some say in putting a roster together. So that, for me, that is going to be new. But at the end of the day, the product is the product. It's still minor league baseball. It's still, family night, date night. It's still a form of entertainment that's unique to minor league baseball.
In regards to the team, talk to us a little bit about the league and its affiliation, because I know it's going to be different from the Suns in regards to their affiliation with minor league baseball. But talk to us a little bit about, I believe it's the Atlantic League.
So right, the Atlantic League is an independent league, so it's not, it's a major league partner league. So a lot of the rule changes that have been implemented into Major League Baseball, in particular this year, like the pitch clock and the larger bases and the not allowing infielders to shift, those rules were tested in the Atlantic League, but we're not necessarily affiliated with the Orioles or the Nationals or the Pirates, so we don't have that affiliation. So you're right, that's different than what this community has been used to in the past. So when Major League Baseball contracted, actually after the 2020 season, which never happened because of COVID, Hagerstown, along with, I believe, 40 other minor league towns, lost their franchises, Frederick as well. So this left markets available to independent leagues that are viable markets and have a history of supporting professional baseball. So that, coupled with the fact that the state approved financing for a new ballpark, really turned Hagerstown into a viable, appealing market.
And one of the things, if I remember correctly, in regards to the stadium itself, that Greg Snook had talked about, was that the stadium itself is either the first or one of the newest stadiums that is being designed to Major League standards. It
is being designed to Major League standards, because you just don't know down the road if that will be an option for us. We're thrilled to be in the Atlantic League. The league has 10 teams from New York down to Gastonia, North Carolina. So we're thrilled to be a part of the league. The caliber of baseball will be higher than what Hagerstown has been used to in the past. We like to explain it as kind of in between AA and AAA. But a lot of the players are experienced. Many of them are former major league players. So they're older, they're more experienced. So it's again, the game is the game, but these players have more experience, and a guy who's got 2 or 3 or 4 years in the big leagues is a pretty good player.
Right.
So.
Right.
As you look at the various design features in the stadium, are there one or more things that strike you as, wow, this is just really cool?
Yeah, for me, one of the unique features, and you see this more in newer ballparks, is the 360-degree concourse. So fans will have the ability to literally walk around the entire ballpark. The main team store and the box office are in center field. That'll be the main entrance to the stadium. Excuse me. Right off of the cultural trail, very similar to the entrance at Camden Yards. But you will be able to walk the entire concourse. So you have a beer garden in right field and a bar in left field, and the main concourse area with 4 concession stands and restrooms and a kid zone in the right field corner, and 8 skyboxes and a banquet space for 300 people. So it will serve a lot of purposes well beyond baseball as well.
Well, yeah, that's been something that I don't know that, at least I personally don't understand what all that means, but I know there's a lot of plans beyond baseball.
Sure.
That's probably not your specialty, but talk to me, and we've had Mayor Brucci on, former Mayor Brucci, Councilman Brucci at this point, I should say. Mm-hmm. We've had Senator Quarterman on. They've all talked about the funding. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions that I see is the funding model for this baseball stadium. This is not coming out of city taxpayer funds. Is that a true statement?
Or county taxpayer funds. Yeah,
Okay.
those are both true statements. This is a true multi-use facility funded by the state of Maryland.
And
fully
part of
funded by
that
the
funding,
state.
in fact, a large part is coming from the Stadium Authority, which is funded by lottery sales, not by taxpayer dollars.
Correct.
Is that true?
So this fund is earmarked for athletic facilities, for convention centers. So this money was going to be spent somewhere in the state of Maryland.
So why not Hagerstown?
And it's just time for some of that to come back here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think there's a big misconception that it's taxpayers' money. And I think that's the elephant in the room, and the rumors that kind of spur that, the money should be used for something else. But this was money that was already earmarked, as you said, mm-hmm. and allocated, and it would have went to a stadium somewhere.
Right.
And
right.
I think from it being a constituent, you should be happy it's here, because I played a lot of occasion myself.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you.
Right. Thank you. You have a couple of my dollars in there, but in a community that I know that heavily invests in the lottery, to not see something come back from that investment, you should only be happy.
I mean, since, again, going way back since '92 when we moved here, there have been stadiums built. Well, Frederick had just built a stadium a couple of years prior to that. At the time the Redskins Stadium was built, M&T Bank Stadium was built, minor league ballparks were built in Salisbury and Aberdeen and Bowie and Waldorf, Maryland. So it's not like this money had not been utilized in other parts of the state. It had.
Right.
And it's going to continue to be. And I think it's wonderful for our community, whether you're a baseball fan or not. Maybe we'll host a concert that you want to come see, or high school athletics, whatever it is. This is a facility that hopefully will touch virtually everybody in our community.
Well, and the other piece, even the part that is not funded by the Stadium Authority, that's funded by the state proper, yes, that may include a couple of my tax dollars, a couple of your tax dollars, but it also includes the tax dollars from people in Southern Maryland, people in Baltimore County, and Baltimore City, all over the state. So the impact is far less.
It's nice to see an investment in our community.
It is.
Of this size, for sure.
And we've talked many times on the show that we are a net taker.
We are.
So to see such a large investment in our community is something that I hope that we can capitalize on to spur the economic development that we were looking for downtown. So.
And you spoke about the number of teams and where they span from the Atlantic League. And I think we sometimes miss out on what that will bring into this town. When those teams that have been established for so many years and that have that veteran players and leadership and organizations, they travel well as well. So they bring their fans into this community to be consumers.
Yeah, I mean, it's 18 hotel rooms a night for 63 nights a year, and 15 full-time jobs in our front office, and 100 part-time jobs during the summertime. And it's a cool job. If you have a teenager or a high school kid who's looking for a summer job, it's kind of a pretty cool place to work. So yeah, the economic impact is significant and has probably, my guess, has been felt by multiple businesses in this area for the
Right.
past 5 years since the Suns left.
And by the way, you're just talking about the impact from the baseball team proper. We haven't
Yeah.
touched the impact from the concerts and from everything else that could potentially be hosted there.
I just had a conversation last week, 2 weeks ago. I would love for us to host the Maryland State High School Baseball Championships in Hagerstown. That would be wonderful. Clear Spring has won the state championship the last 2 years, and they had to drive down to Waldorf to do it. So,
Right.
Obviously, I think we will have the facility that will be appealing.
Well, and you
And
look
so
at
we
you look
would
at the
love to host
precedent.
that.
If you know about indoor track in the state of Maryland, a lot of the indoor track meets are held at Hagerstown Community College
Sure.
in their athletic recreation and community center.
There's really only two facilities in the state of Maryland when it comes to indoor track. I mean, it's PG and it's Hagerstown.
Right. So
But
I mean,
you're
we're
limited.
already known for having those high level facilities that we can host those types of things. Same thing happened in our ice skating rink in the city of Hagerstown. I can't tell you the number of tournaments that I volunteered to be a part of that, people were coming in from Virginia, Maryland, West Virginia, Delaware, all over the place.
And you have to have the facilities to be able to host events like
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
So, I think everybody focuses on baseball, but the more I think about this, the more I learn about this, baseball is just one little piece.
We're just 63 days a year. There's a lot of other days in the year we can fill up.
So in regards to the planning, in regards to all the other ancillary activities and teams and events there, that's not in your purview in regards to what your responsibilities are.
It will be. I mean, we will run that facility. We will book other events. We will run our concessions in-house. So we will really have a lot of control over that facility, but we will also look to partner with, whether it's the city of Hagerstown or the Maryland Theater. We will certainly look for those partnerships as well.
Because being a sports guy and just looking at the sports aspect, and our proximity to West Virginia, PA, Virginia, even something like a regional high school all-star matchup where you have teams that are coming from all these states there's a lot of possibilities in
Yeah.
regards to what you can do to draw people into
There
that
was
town.
an event like that several years ago, which is I don't think has been hosted in Hagerstown since, but I've already talked to that gentleman about how we would love to have that back. And it was essentially a senior high school all-star event for baseball.
Yeah, it's kind of like, football has those events that they were doing in Pittsburgh. Is it the Big 33 or
Yeah,
something
Maryland
like that?
versus Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and that type of thing. So, yeah, it's a lot of possibilities in regards to what can happen in sports alone outside of the
And
independent
it's
teams.
such a easy destination to get to with two
Right.
interstates running right through Hagerstown. So
Well, and
travel's easy.
And even though I know there's been some question lately about the changes that are necessary to the cultural trail, the fact of the matter is the cultural trail still leads to some very nice amenities in Hagerstown, like the Washington County Museum of Fine Arts, like the
Yeah.
Maryland Theater.
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of possibilities there as well. Can you talk about the inaugural season? And I know there's probably still a lot of planning going on, but what can you tell us that you know for sure so far?
A lot of planning going on, yes.
Can we buy season tickets?
You may.
Okay, excellent.
We are taking deposits on season tickets now. We hope to have our schedule October-ish, maybe mid-October, early November. So that's exciting. Things start to become real once you have a logo and a name and a schedule. So we've been busy out kind of networking with the corporate community and delving into those partnerships and
How has that networking been received by the local
really
corporate
enthusiastically. Yeah, it's been the response has been amazing. I think it's twofold. I think clearly a lot of people are excited about the ballpark and the newness and freshness that it'll bring. But there are a lot of people out there, especially on the fan side, that have just really missed having a team here for 5 years.
Yeah.
So I think it's twofold. The energy about the ballpark is really palpable. But there's certainly a handful of people who've already put down their deposits on season tickets who used to be season ticket holders for the Suns and couldn't wait to get in and put their deposits down, and we're not allowing people to pick out seats yet because we don't know exactly have our seat manifest in line yet. But people are excited, and it's really it's fun to be a part of it.
And so, and you may or may not know the answer to this, but the parking deck that is associated, is it anticipated that that will be ready coincident with the stadium?
Ideally, yes.
Okay.
You know, it's obviously under construction now, so we have temporary offices in the old Herald Mail building, so we've got construction on both sides of that building. But you know, quite frankly, if it's not, there's plenty of parking within 2 or 3 blocks of the stadium anyway. But that parking deck will be strategically located almost directly across the street from the front entrance, directly across the street from the cultural trail, which will actually lead to the front entrance of the ballpark.
Well, and of course, the other side benefit is now we have another parking deck downtown.
Yes, we do.
That can be used for other purposes and hopefully to attract more businesses and more,
For sure.
More commerce.
Yeah, and from a planning side, parking decks are amazing. You want the convenience, but on the same, you need some walkability in the community.
Mm-hmm.
If you make it too easy for everyone to go to their car and leave, how does that support the downtown businesses? So, you know, especially when you get to park maybe a couple blocks away and you get to walk through the town, you get stopping and get something to eat before you get to the stadium, or you can shop in a shop downtown. We want to create that cyclone of business and consumers downtown when that game lets out.
Feet on the street.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't want to send them, and funnel them all back into their cars, because I think that's some issue that we have downtown right now.
And we've discussed that as a staff already, whether it's adjusting game times earlier so people, instead of going home after the game, they can kind of hang out and go to bars and restaurants, or maybe doing pregame or postgame concerts, just to create another reason for people to hang out downtown. I mean, that's the whole purpose of this.
And I'm sure these details aren't worked out, but I know the Suns had fireworks nights, they had Thirsty Thursdays, and all those other things.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that you'll have similar events. Again, I'm not
I'm
asking what
assuming
they
so
are.
too. I mean, we've had all the meetings we've had too about the fireworks. We think it's doable in a fairly tight location. So that's our plan right now. No promises, but
regardless,
promising, but
and
no promises,
I
but
wasn't
yes.
trying to single out the fireworks.
Yeah.
But you'll
No,
have
I'll
special
single out
events.
the fireworks. They're pretty popular. They're pretty popular.
Okay,
So, yes,
good.
That's a
definitely
staple
part of our,
at minor league ballparks.
part of our business model for sure.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, but not all the weight is on you, and that's what I think we need to also consider, right? You know, it's also the business community that want to kind of plug into success and make success contagious. You know, when there's a night at the park, you know the schedule. If I have a business, I want to run an event at my business that same night, because I know there's going to be people downtown. You know, we're going to have an event on the culture trail, maybe early before the game start, that people can kind of come early and bleed into. So I think we just need to realize and not put all the weight that the stadium is going to drop in and be the Midas touch.
Yeah.
And it will take a community and a village to make things
I
work.
think we as a community need to get people into the habit of going downtown again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we've got to start on that. We've got the Barbara Ingram School for the Arts.
Absolutely.
We've got USMH. We have a next generation of people that think a little differently, maybe a lot differently about downtown now, and that's a
Yeah.
good thing.
And the Maryland Theater is such a wonderful facility, and now you've got this $70 million ballpark a block and a half away. I mean, there are some really great destinations in downtown Hagerstown.
Absolutely.
Well, David, we want to hold here. We want to take a moment, take a quick break, but we want to come back and talk more stadium and more ball, if that's okay with you.
That's great. Thank
All
you.
right. Well, stay with us. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to the show. David, thank you for staying with us. We're talking Hagerstown, we're talking the Flying Boxcars, and we're talking baseball. Sounds like a good day. We just don't have red solo cups in front of us right now. David, one question I had for you is that when it comes to the stadium, how many boxes will be available for sale to the business community?
Right, so there are 8 suites in the ballpark at the club level, in addition to a banquet space for 300 people.
Wow.
So we have, of those 8 boxes, we're going to hold 1 box back for game day rentals. So we have 7 suites available for sale now, which have been sold already. So
Oh, so the 7 boxes have already been sold?
Yeah, there was.
Excellent.
Didn't
Take
effort.
long, right?
Didn't take much effort on our part. Not a marketing genius. there.
Terrence, you didn't tell me.
Well, it's good that, and I'm glad to hear that one would be held back,
Yeah.
because I know that's a big draw now to have events, birthdays,
Yeah.
corporate parties right at the stadium during a game, where you kind of have your own insulated area where you can meet and socialize, but yet still branch out and be part of the larger event.
And the banquet space is really cool. Like I said, it's big enough for 300 people. It on the back side will overlook the corner of Baltimore and Summit Avenue. On the front side, obviously, will overlook the field itself. But we've already had people say that it'd be a great place to host a Christmas party or a meeting space. I mean,
A lot of your nonprofits are going to have another option to
Yeah,
host their galas and
exactly
different things that they do in the
It's a
community.
really functional space that we
Well, and again, it's
anticipate and hope
another
the community
reason to
will
get
use.
people downtown.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And if you can't market to people outside of the community, it's great for people outside the community to come to your community and have a venue where you can market right to them. So you're having an event and being able to talk to people that may be from the surrounding community, traveling back up from New York or other regions that will be bringing their teams into the community.
And we really hope and anticipate that local businesses, if they have clients or coworkers visiting from out of town, like this will be the place that you want to
You
take
would
them.
take them to
Or if
entertain.
you have family coming in from out of town, hey, let's go to the ball game tonight. You're not going to believe this ballpark in Hagerstown. So we really hope it'll be a magnet in that sense as well. We just hope their community will feel, and I'm sure it will, the pride that we feel already, just being there every day.
And baseball being America's pastime, which is now coming up against some competition with, of course, the football leagues as well now. We're seeing MLS, come into the region as well. Baseball has kind of stepped their game up a little bit as well to make the game more enjoyable. And what's the average time of a baseball game right now?
So it's been reduced almost a half hour at the big league level this year.
Yeah.
It's about 2 hours and 40 minutes. And it's a better game. It's a more marketable game. But the one thing that I found about baseball, as far as going to a game and being a fan, is that it's so sociable. You
Right.
have time to talk between pitches and between innings. And
Right.
I'm a diehard Ravens fan. My wife and I go to as many games as we can, and it's an awesome experience. But it's not necessarily a sociable experience. Baseball is just so casual and laid back, and that's the thing. I told my wife when I took the job, I said, I'm not sure I really thought this through, because I'm not going to be able to just kind of be a fan and get a beer and a hot dog and watch the game at this new ballpark anymore. But it's certainly worth it. But that's what makes baseball so unique from a fan standpoint. Is it is slow paced, not 3 hours and 30 minutes slow paced, but you can have those social interactions, for 2.5 hours.
I took my girlfriend to a Yankees game because we are New Yorkers and, transplants, but it was the first time she had been to a baseball game. Not big in sports. We probably spent maybe 2 or 3 innings in our seat. The rest of the time we were in different restaurants, we were shopping,
Yeah.
we were spending money across the entire stadium and interacting. We met new people. There was lounges where you kind of sit around and then you could go back to your seat and kind of jump back into the game when you want. And I think that's, us, we actually go to a football game every year when my Giants play as Commanders. You can't do that really. You kind of sit there and you stuck to your seat until
Exactly.
halftime coming in and everyone pours in and then pours back into their seat. So you don't have that interaction. And baseball offers, like you said, that leisurely social experience that I think we still need more of.
And especially since you can walk all the way around the concourse,
Yeah,
like
that's
you can shift around the park but still enjoy the game at the same time.
You will be able to, if you really want to watch what's happening on the field, you will be able to get your cardio in and walk around the ballpark and never miss a pitch if that's your goal.
I'm sure I'll be chasing my son around the park, but I'll have my running shoes on. I'll be
There
ready.
you
for it.
go.
Well, they have a whole kids zone, right? And
We
big
do,
inflatables and slides and all that stuff is
Yeah.
going to be built in there. So
Yeah.
it is a completely family experience that you can kind of come out and enjoy an entire day at the park versus just a couple of hours.
And we've got our diehard fans who can't wait to pick out their seat and make sure they got their space in their elbow room. So there's really something for everybody.
Get their first Flying Boxcars T-shirt.
Not far off. Not far off. We actually are going to open a kiosk at the Valley Mall starting October 16th. So we will have a presence at the Valley Mall to sell merchandise and shirts
And
and
will you
hats.
also have stuff available online?
We will.
Good.
We'll have an online store as well. Yes.
Today's my birthday. I was hoping you would bring me some early release merchandise, but I guess I'll wait with everyone
They
else.
haven't introduced the logo.
You're going to have to wait a week on
Said
that
early
one.
release. You don't ask, you don't get.
Now, one thing in regards to kind of the stadium, but also actually I wanted to talk about the players. What do you see the makeup of the team being? Will the players on this team, are they still fighting for an opportunity to make it to the major leagues? Or is this kind of like the secondary option of they've exhausted it and many of these players?
No, a great question. Not at all. A lot of them will have aspirations to either get to the major leagues or to get back to the major leagues. Some of them just want to get paid to play baseball, which is great, but a lot of them will have aspirations to get to major leagues or to get signed to a major league organization, and you can go to AA or AAA. And a lot of players from the Atlantic League go that route. So we have a contractual obligation, the league has a contractual obligation with Major League Baseball that Major League Baseball can sign any player off of any of the Atlantic League rosters at any time. And there's nothing that, you can lose your best player to the Baltimore Orioles, and there's nothing you can do about it. So absolutely, those players have aspirations to
So
get
that's a
to
tough
the
thing
major
for you
leagues.
as a general manager and having to work and re-sign and shuffle players, but it also creates another layer of fan connection because if a guy you've been watching, whether it's for or against,
Yeah. You
gets
could-
promoted to the big leagues, then you have another tie.
You could see them on TV a week from now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You've seen what happened when Tebow came to town.
Yeah.
For that series.
Yeah.
All right, he packed the community out.
Tebow, Bryce Harper, and some of the other Nats that were on assignments
Juan
during those
Soto and
years.
Strasburg.
Yeah.
And Hagerstown has just an amazing history of minor league baseball. Some great players that have come through Hagerstown.
Now, one thing in regards to baseball, I mean, our community has such a rich history of baseball. We have, many players from this area and this region that have went on to play in the major leagues. And even if we delve further back, I mean, we have Willie Mays and we have some Negro leagues. Is there anything that you're working on or have talked about to kind of tie in that rich history and to really talk expansively about all-inclusive in regards to all of our baseball history?
Yeah, we have definitely had discussions about how we can honor the tremendous history of baseball in Hagerstown. And like you said, going back to 1950 when Willie Mays played his first game in Hagerstown against Hagerstown for the Trenton Giants. That's something, without getting too much into details, that will be noticeable and commemorated in our ballpark.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
It's important. You can have all the bells and whistles of a new stadium, but the history is the history, and that doesn't change.
Right.
Are there any other unique elements that either minor league baseball generally or specifically the Flying Boxcars that you'd like to highlight?
To me, one of the unique elements is that this is a downtown facility. I mean, you just don't see many ballparks in a core downtown area like this, especially at the minor league level. Sometimes I think it's hard to even find enough property to build a facility like this in downtown. So I think that will be uniquely ours, and I think we should embrace that. And like we've talked about, it will really have an impact on the surrounding core of downtown Hagerstown. I mean, I think it's going to really feel like an urban downtown ballpark once it's built. I mean, the walls are literally right up against the road when you drive by. I mean, it's going to feel a little bit like Yankee Stadium when you on a different scale.
So you're gonna tell me you're gonna have kids standing, waiting for that ball to come over the fence?
I'd be shocked if we don't. It's part of the fun.
That's awesome. Let's shift a little bit. Here's my question for you. What keeps you up at night?
Every night's different. It's, from staffing to, some of it's out of our control. If Mother Nature doesn't bless us with a mild winter again, we could get backed up a little bit. But there's just so many details that, I probably email myself 4 or 5 times a day with little reminders. Like if I don't remind myself now, I'll forget about it. So it's just the little stuff. The big stuff will take care of itself, but it's the little things. Like even when I was interviewing for the job, like where's the visiting bus going to park, and where are we going to find bat boys? It's just the little parts of the job that make it interesting and fun. But those are the things that can tend to keep you up at night too.
If you have an application, I can probably work on a bat boy.
Okay.
Archie, you cannot be a bat boy. So I know you mentioned October 16th. We know that October 16th merch is going to be on sale at the Valley Mall, I believe.
Yes. Yep.
The unveiling is happening in the next couple of weeks. Any other major dates that you're targeting? And we all know that every date is written in pencil right now because there's so many other things that you and community as a whole has to take into effect. So any other key dates?
We've reached a few of those milestones already, from the name of the team contest to voting for the team name to releasing the team name and now the logo. In a couple of months, we'll have our uniform release. The schedule release will be a milestone for us. But there are construction milestones too. They just started, steel just started going up in the ballpark about 10 days, 2 weeks ago. And from a construction standpoint, that's a real milestone as well, because now this ballpark is really starting to come out of the ground, and it's looking like a ballpark. So yeah, there are milestones internally that we will reach, and it's a slow process. The construction process is slow, and I think, fortunately, we're not having to rush through this process. We do have, when I started in mid-April, you're talking over 12 months until we get to that first game. So it's a really long process, but I would rather do it this way and do it right than kind of rush through it, like some teams have had to do in the past. And it's going to test our patience, but at the end of the day, it allows us to really make good decisions going forward.
The measure twice, cut once approach.
Yeah.
Right? Get it right the first time if you can.
Exactly.
And you talked about steel. From the supply chain standpoint in construction, there's some things that they're navigating with that you have no control over, that they're still working through.
Yeah, no, we don't. We don't have control, but from every indication, they're on schedule, and it really sounds like the supply chain has started to loosen up recently. So I know there was talk initially about this team starting play in 2023, and then I think it became obvious to people that there was no way that this facility would be, forget about being ready in 2023 at the beginning of the season, but even midway through the season. So fortunately, the league allowed us to start in 2024. And so, like I said, every indication is that the project is on schedule, and that I'm hoping that a lot of those supply chain issues have been cleared up. It sounds like they have been.
How much play do you have at the back end of the construction schedule? I mean, are you going to be doing things up until 3 days before or 1 day before?
We'll do things after. I mean, the focus is to make sure that the ballpark is ready for fans. That first and foremost, that's going to happen. There's front office space in the ballpark that we will occupy at some point. It really doesn't matter when we get into our offices. We just need to open that ballpark and make sure that the fans have the full and best experience possible. So I don't doubt that even when games are being played, there's still going to be work done, whether in the front offices or the clubhouses, whatever it may be. But as long as it's fan ready, that's our goal.
And also in development with such a large facility, by the time you finish, you have to go back and start repairing at the same time because of the size of that facility and the wear that happens as you start having those events. So there will always be some kind of upgrading or repair that will always be happening at some point in time.
There'll be maintenance schedules that we'll have to follow, and warranties that will equipment will be under. I mean, it really is, you're right, an intricate facility. It's got an escalator and an elevator and 2 wheelchair lifts. So it really is, it's not your run-of-the-mill minor league baseball stadium from even 20 years ago.
Let's talk about accessibility. I know that one of the concerns that I had heard from a friend, frankly, is, hey, I'm older, will I be able to get around? How would you answer that?
So the answer is yes. The main entrance will be at field level and at street level. So like I said, there's elevators and handicap accessible ramps, 2, one on the third base side and on the first base side, that will take people up to the main concourse level. And then there's lots of wheelchair accessible seating at the top of the concourse level too. So that's been addressed. The architect has done an amazing job, and so it's going to be probably state of the art in that regard, to be honest.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is a personal question because I've seen this at many stadiums before. How do you protect the field when you're going to have events that'll be going on that field, when you have thousands of people, maybe coming to a festival that may be held, and then game day? And what's that look like, and what kind of headache is that?
It's very little headache for us because the field surface itself is going to be artificial turf. So it's not natural grass. So that it does 2 things. On the long run, it allows us to host many more events without having to worry about wear and tear on the field.
Okay.
But even on the construction side, it could save us 4 to 6 months of putting down sod and waiting for that to be playable. So it saves us time on the front end, but it also allows us to host many more activities once the facility opens as well.
Interesting. Let's talk about the important piece that we really haven't touched on so far, the food. What can you tell us about availability? I know you mentioned a beer garden earlier.
Yeah. No, not a whole lot yet. We have so we will be running our concessions in-house.
And will there be any local vendors that'll be a part of that? Or?
We haven't even gotten that far yet. We have a food and beverage director that starts October 2nd.
Okay.
So all the normal ballpark fare, I think will be there, and hopefully with a couple twists. But that's one thing. What's one box we really haven't checked a whole lot.
Well, the bar is high because ballparks aren't just hot dogs and beer anymore. Like it's a whole kind of dining experience at most parks right now.
Well,
so I know you got to work in the traditional.
Yes.
But I'm excited to see what comes out.
We had when I was with the Suns, we had a hot dog with crunchy peanut butter on it, which everybody reacts that way, but I grew up on it. My dad put crunchy peanut butter on my hot dog when I was a little kid. And do you like hot dogs?
Yeah.
Do you like peanut butter?
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
It's a surprisingly good combination. So I don't know if that'll be on our menu or not.
I also like pickles and ice cream, but I'm not sure that I would mix them.
Well, I cringe sometimes when people would on their hot dog with crunchy peanut butter when they would put ketchup and mustard. That's not the point. You don't want to mix condiments there. So just the peanut butter.
And excuse me if you've covered this already, but mild winter. If we get a mild winter, things stay on track. Ballpark opens when?
We are hoping first or second week of May. That would be our ideal scenario. So that the Atlantic League season starts next year on April 26th. So we have the ability, and we will be scheduled on the road for
the first week or
2 or 3 series. So that it could be 7 to 10 days, which allows us a little more time to get to that finish line. But yeah, if all goes well, first, second week of May next year, that would be ideal.
And I know that there used to be host families for the players back when the Suns, and that really pulled the community in. But I thought it was still some opportunities for the players to be a lot more present throughout the community in special events, autograph signing, outside of days, when they weren't on the road training and things like that as well. So again, I know that's far down the window, the aisle for you to kind of think about, but I think that's going to really help build that camaraderie when people really start to know and see these players and interact with them.
And one thing I think, one unique feature about the Atlantic League is that, typically in affiliated baseball, your best players are there for, maybe a year, maybe even a half a year. if a guy comes to Hagerstown and plays for us next year and loves it, that guy could be back for the next 5 or 6 or 7 years. So you can create that that relationship with fans that may not exist necessarily in affiliated baseball. So that is one unique feature.
That's amazing.
And one thing we can do before we get our players is send our mascots out into the community. So we, hopefully we'll check that box.
I can't wait to
come
see
the new
that
year
costume.
as well. So yeah, do you want to get in the costume?
No.
On a day like today, I don't know how that costume would be.
It would be hot.
Yeah.
It's hot on a cold day. So yes.
All right. We should probably take a break, Reggie.
Fair enough. Stay with us. We'll have more after the break. Welcome back to the show. We have had a great time this evening, gentlemen. Hagerstown Flying Boxcars Baseball. David, thank you for staying with us. Terrence, I'll let you jump back in on this.
I know we left off kind of talking about the mascot. So when's the timing around that mascot going to hit? And also, what's the plan to kind of introduce into the community and get the community engaged around this project going forward?
So we've started to engage the production of a mascot already. So our hope would be to have a mascot available, or at least a suit available. We'll need somebody to put in it by about the new year. So even well before our players get here and we start playing games, we can start to create that community connections by going to fundraising events or schools and doing different appearances with our mascot, which everybody loves a mascot. So
Maybe you can have Santa in one seat, mascot in another. Get dual pictures.
you're hired. You're our new marketing assistant.
He keeps wanting to put me in this mascot outfit.
But I think it's great partnerships as well, and using kind of the Santa, like the Symphony does a Christmas spectacular every year, which is highly attended. And the biggest draw is when Santa comes at the end of it.
Right.
What if Santa did come in with the new Flying Boxcar mascot and come into the Maryland Theater during that time as well?
That would be cool.
That would be a great
Oh,
We
opportunity.
might have
He's
to push
the new
up our
marketing
time.
assistant.
There you go.
We'll push up our timeline a couple weeks and see if we
You're
can
now
make
the
that
assistant
happen.
marketing assistant.
The assistant. The assistant. Good.
Well, it's great that you are developing those partnerships, and clearly the business community has reacted. All of your boxes are sold.
Yeah.
It's great that you had that one box, because I could see many organizations taking advantage of that. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I remember, had reason to go to Baltimore. I think this was when I was in banking for a Verizon thing, and it was right after the new stadium had been built for the Orioles. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that happened was, after our event, they had a guided tour of kind of the back side of the stadium, which is the part of that whole 2-day conference. That's the part I remember.
Yeah.
So, I mean, certainly not at scale, but, some of the intricacies and the fact that they leave the final score written on the scoreboard over the winter because that's what they do. That would be fun.
Yeah, I suspect a lot of people are going to want to see like you said, the inside of the facility and kind of the
People like the
nitty gritty,
backstory.
the batting cages and
People
the clubhouses.
like the backstory, right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you see, from a press perspective, and I'm not saying this to be rude, but we don't have near the press that we had when the Hagerstown Suns were around. We've kind of lost our TV station. The newspaper is not what it once was. I'll just say it that way. How much of a challenge is that going to be for your organization?
Well, that's why we hired young 23 and 24-year-old kids who are right out of college and understand how to utilize social media, because I don't. So that'll be an important piece for us, I think, from a marketing standpoint, is to utilize social media.
And I know, growing up, I know my grandmother and all my uncles, there was always a radio playing a game. And I think that's still part of baseball's kind of history, and the broadcasters. Is the team going to have specialized broadcasters that are going to be dedicated to the games? And how it's going to be broadcasted?
Yeah, all of the Atlantic League games are actually broadcast over the internet. So
Oh.
with a subscription, you can watch every game from anywhere on the planet. So I guess that's kind of the new world radio.
Right.
You just
right. Keep
New
this
media
in
put it
our
on your
pockets,
phone
right?
or your laptop and,
Yep.
and you either watch or listen or do both if you want to.
So it will be, you can view it. It's not just audio.
That's correct.
It's audio video.
That's correct.
But that does give
Yes.
you opportunities to broaden your fan base
Sure.
well outside of this community as well.
Yes.
And radio personalities are part of the game as well, and it also
Yeah.
becomes a draw as people follow them.
Well, and for those fans who may have difficulty getting to the stadium on a given night because they've got other commitments or whatever, it gives them an opportunity to stay in touch with the team and not miss that game that they might have otherwise missed.
Yeah, I was, when I worked for the Suns, those were the days of radio, and I remember our kids were young, and my wife and I would take walks in the evening, and I'd have my little transistor radio listening to. I was probably more diehard than most people because I had a vested interest, but absolutely, we used to take walks with our kids and listen to the games at the same time.
Last question for me, at least. There's obviously a number of critical milestones that have to happen between now and opening day. Can you talk through what those major milestones might be and what the timing, the relative timing? What happens next?
Yeah, so we're going to be just crazy as a sales team right now, selling our marketing inventory, meaning promotions and outfield billboards and our season ticket plans. And once we get our schedule, we'll have our group rates and picnic menus together. From a facility standpoint, once we get closer, we will have a seat selection Saturday. At least that's our plan, where all of the people who put down deposits on season tickets, we will invite them to the ballpark where they can physically come into the ballpark and pick out their seat. So that will definitely be a milestone. There's so many positives about this project, like I mentioned before, starting with the ownership group and the facility. We know everybody I interview and hire. We suspect that everybody's going to want to come to this ballpark at least once, just out of curiosity. But it's really our job to make sure that fans have the best possible experience, so they want to come back a second time and a third time and a fourth time. So that's on us. That's on us and me and our staff to produce that game experience that that makes people feel at home and makes them feel welcome and makes them feel that this ballpark is really theirs. And that's on us. That's our job, to create that fan experience that makes people want to come back over and over again.
It's a two-way relationship as well.
Absolutely.
It has to be an acceptance across the community as fan base as well to accept the team.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what happens. And if, I know I have no power or authority, but FlipSide on location at the new stadium would be a nice thing to consider. I'm not saying that we can do it.
Cronkite Tea and Jim covering baseball?
I like it.
There's nothing more American than that.
I like it.
You guys are welcome anytime.
So I do have one other question that just came to mind. So obviously the city has been invested in this. This has been on their books to get something done in this since I started in business, which was a long time ago. I remember at the tender age of 23 years old, my first job at what was then F&M Bank, and hearing one of the local bank presidents come talk to my Kiwanis Club about how he was going to make sure that there was a baseball stadium
Right.
in Hagerstown. Well, 30 years later, it finally happened. So the city's been invested. The state obviously has shown their investment. Talk to me about the partnership with the county and how they're helping out during this process.
For my part of the job, honestly, I haven't had much communication with the county, quite frankly. I know there are a lot of people who have put a lot of sweat equity into making this happen, and you're right, it goes back many years. Back in the mid-90s, when I was working for the Suns, there was talk of a new ballpark. Back that far, but there are a lot of people like Dan Spedden and Jim Kirchhoff and Senator Quarterman who really kind of never gave up hope and got the community to the finish line here. And this is not a one-off. This ballpark's going to be here for decades and decades to come, and it's a real gift for our community.
Generational investment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and go big or go home,
Well, we definitely went big.
We went big.
We went big.
Yeah.
And, you know, looking at the economic landscape, you know, this infusion, this investment is happening in a time where the economy is not steady. You know, what other time would our community get such a large investment such as this, especially in a time when, you know, you start looking at budget deficits and everything else is being talked about in Annapolis,
Right,
So
exactly.
the timing to get this done was spot on, because if not, this project wouldn't get done in the economic climate that we're in now.
So if you're watching this on YouTube, I want you to bookmark this as this is my 15-year prediction. You know, 15 years after USMH, I think nobody looks at that, because there was a lot of question about, oh, we should never build University Systems of Maryland in Hagerstown. Well, guess what? They were wrong. I suspect that the naysayers today will be wrong in 15 years. I think this is going to be a major game changer, no pun intended, for the city of Hagerstown.
My son will be 17. He'll be a top MLB prospect at the time. It'll be an exciting time for this town.
There were naysayers about the culture trail.
Yes, there
Yeah.
were.
And here we are now. And again, I think it's always an opportunity to kind of offer concerns, but after a certain point, you just got to get on board, because you're not
Or get out of the way.
Or get out of the way,
Yeah.
Right.
because you're not stopping. All you're doing is slowing down progress, and that hurts everyone.
Right, including those that are the naysayers.
Absolutely.
What's the thought process of self-fulfilling prophecy? All right.
I feel good about this one. And the last thing I'll leave you with is, you know, we were talking about off camera, you know, in 1976, my first memories of the ballpark in Lynchburg, Virginia had nothing to do with baseball. It was the bicentennial, it was the fireworks there. We have the same opportunity coming up in 2026 when we have the semi-quincentennial there. So that's another event you can go ahead and throw
You
on the
guys are
bus.
hired.
All right, take us out.
All right, David, thank you for being with us. We wish you all the best. We're going to be rooting, and opening day, I will be there with my son.
Well,
and
we're
I
going to have him
cannot
back on
wait.
before opening day.
Absolutely.
Great.
Can't
And
wait.
can we just do one more thing? Can you tell us if somebody is interested in partnering and buying one of the wall ads or whatever, how do they contact you?
Honestly, the best way is going to be to jump on our website, but not until next week at flyingboxcars.com. That'll have all ticket information and contact information and
Flyingboxcars.com. Excellent, thank
that's
you.
correct.
Excellent. Well, thank you for all your time.
Thank you.
And that's all the time that we have for tonight. We hope that you'll like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and send us your comments to feedback@theflipsidetv.com. That is feedback@theflipsidetv.com. But most importantly, join us again next week for another episode of